Here we go. It is John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. Love visiting with him. Brought to you by Vols Automotive Group and Big Orange Phillies. I'll tell you more about them here momentarily. National Signing Day. That's right. So we're going to take a look at the transfer portal, which has become a part of recruiting every bit as much as, I don't know, going to Friday night high school games. So brought to you by Vols Automotive Group and Big Orange Phillies. Please hit that like button. We greatly appreciate that. So, John, Tennessee, let's start with kind of a surface view of this 20,000-foot view. You have Tennessee with the number 9 class in the nation. That would certainly give Butch Jones a lot to brag about. But I do always say that with this caveat that comes out, if you want to include Texas and Oklahoma, about 6th in the SEC. So is December the 21st, National Signing Day 2022, a win for the Vols?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a top 10 class, it's a win. That's relative in the SEC. Uh, it's just really hard to out recruit Alabama and Georgia. And you mentioned the transfer portal. That's where you need to maybe make some gains. And I think it kind of, it's really taken some of the luster off recruiting, the signing class. If you land a top notch transfer, it's going to have more impact next season. Now you think, well, down the road, yes, this class may be the makings of a really good team, but when you're looking at immediate gains and immediate impact, the transfer portal is a place to be. And Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin has certainly proved that. LSU did the same under Brian Kelly this past year, transformed a team that would have been middle of the road SEC West into an SEC West champion.
You brought this up to me 6 weeks ago, and I didn't even really think about it because I looked at a quarterback room that would have Nico. Taven Jackson, I think, is underrated. And then Joe Milton III. He has accuracy issues, but he does have some experience. And you said, oh, they'll go get a quarterback in the transfer portal. And I immediately thought John's absolutely right. They still can later in the portal, but at this point, they haven't as of National Signing Day. Do you think they will?
Yeah, if I had to bet on it, I would say they will. That that adds sort of some significance to the Orange Bowl game against Clemson, because if Joe Milton plays well, I think Tennessee feels better about its quarterback situation next year. I mean, it looks really good on paper. Tavian Jackson, a four-star recruit who was hurt this year. Joe Milton, who has been a starter both here and in Michigan. And of course, Nico Ilamaleva, who is a five-star recruit. So that's a pretty good quarterback situation.
10 years ago, that's one of the best in the entire nation.
But I know, but I think you got to look at transfers. One thing you can't ever say is, well, we look set here. We don't want to cause any disruption. We like what we have, who we have. We think we can win with this. No, I don't care how good your situation is. If you can look out there and say, we could get this transfer quarterback and he's better than all these guys, you need to get him. That's how championships will be won and lost in this era, and we've already seen that.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second? Because I think they will eventually take a quarterback in the transfer portal, but I'm going to throw some reasons at you as to why they may not. And it's brought to you by Viles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. Viles Automotive Group. It's the center of the car buying world because they have great selection and they make sure that you get the best possible value for your dollar. They want, they need, and they appreciate your business. I encourage you to check out Viles Automotive Group with service as well. They're different. I'm telling you, Viles Automotive Group on Callahan. So let me throw this at you. You have great team chemistry, except for South Carolina. So you have great team chemistry on this team, which I think for the most part is true. Joe Milton III has waited his time. You don't want to bring in a transfer portal quarterback to disrupt that. Any validity to that? A former Vol told me that today, as a matter of fact.
Uh, you can't think that way in today's college football era. You've got to think what's best for the program. And let's go back. We see it happening now. Remember when Clemson won a national championship? I think it won 1-1. Trevor Lawrence's freshman season.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Bryant's a quarterback, pretty good quarterback. Starts first 3 or 4 games. Dabo Sweeney said, "Nah, we got this guy's freshman. Probably need to play him because when we get to a playoff situation, playing that caliber of opponent, we'll need Trevor Lawrence. We'll need that much talent. Let's go ahead and make that move now." Yeah, that kind of thing definitely can disrupt team chemistry, but you've got to work through that. I mean, your goal is to win the championship. And if you think you can't, if your chances are enhanced talent wise by playing one quarterback over another, to me, you have to weigh that and make that decision, then sort things out afterward. I mean, that's what sports is all about. We see it at every level, and you can't give way to that line of thinking. I just don't think you can yield to that because, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to go 10-2 or 9-3 or 8-4 or go to a bowl game, okay, maybe. You're trying to win a championship and you think you can bring in a guy that's better than what you have, you better bring that guy in or it will hurt you long term.
Agreed. Please hit that like button if you haven't subscribed yet. Be sure and do that. But the like button really helps you. So go ahead and punch on that thumbs up button. We appreciate it. Brought to you by Big Orange Phillies, the Vol Report with John Adams. Big Orange Phillies on Maynardville Pike. Great food in North Knoxville. Easy to get to from anywhere in North Knoxville and also easy to get to from Maynardville. And they have billiards, darts. They've got it all at Big Orange Phillies and great place to watch football. Make plans to watch the Orange Bowl there. You'll have a great time if you're not making the trip at Big Orange Phillies. They are fantastic. Okay, let me throw another notion at you. So let's take out Joe Milton's feelings and team chemistry. So that's not a possibility. So how about this? The logistics, and you've stood through a lot of football practices, so have I. The logistics of getting four quarterbacks realistic snaps in spring are pretty tough. I mean, that's pretty difficult to get real one-on-one looks out of four guys. So you definitely want to start working on Nico. Joe Milton needs all the work he can get, and I think they like Taven Jackson. Is that a decent argument that four is just too many to manage in a room and get realistic snaps?
Well, yeah, it's hard to do that. A four-way quarterback competition is very challenging. However, another way to look at this is what if you get somebody after spring? That's when it got Joe Milton for the 2021 season. He came on board after spring. You could actually use spring practice as kind of a evaluation period, not just to decide who's number one, but decide if any of these guys are number one.
Well,
Speaking hypothetically, if you're a quarterback and you want to transfer, okay, the first inclination is you want to go somewhere, check in there in January, make the transition, get familiar with the team, the system, go through spring ball. But another way to look at it, how much your value is enhanced if you wait till May and you're the only big time quarterback out there. And other teams have now gone through spring ball and they say, I don't know if we're good enough at quarterback, or I don't know if we can win a championship with these guys. So then this guy, talk about combine this with the NIL money. This guy can make a lot of money if he's willing to do that, if he's willing to wait. But I think you're right. I think a four-way competition is very difficult. And we can't be sure, though, even with the three-way competition, that all these guys are coming back. When you think about Taven Jackson's situation, he's kind of the man in the middle. And
Mhm.
we haven't seen enough of him to know. We've heard that the coaches like him. Well, do they really like him, or do they just want to put it out there that they really like him? So, that'll get back to him, and he'll want to stick around and compete. But he's kind of the man in the middle because Joe Milton has a big arm, has experience, and Nico is the guy, the 5-star with all the possibilities and so promising potential. So, I mean, you have to wonder, with Taven Jackson, see the writing on the wall? Would he transfer, or would he say, I can beat these guys out? You don't know. I think it would be one of the most intriguing quarterback situations Tennessee has ever had.
No, it's really interesting in a lot of different ways, and they've had some unique ones. If you want to go back to Clausen Ainge, Schaefer Ainge, you want to go back to Tim Rattay and Clausen. There's one as well going way back, and I find it interesting that Tennessee fans are as enamored with Nico as they are, and they should be. But I would argue that the fact that they got 7 4-star players, Nico is the one 5-star player, 7 4-star players, and 5 are defensive players, might end up being more significant in the long run. I make that argument because I think that Josh Heupel can coach up a quarterback. I don't think Hendon Hooker is an elite NFL quarterback. I think he can coach up a quarterback. But defensive players, especially in the secondary, you and I were talking before we went on the air. They need help there, big time.
Yeah, and Dave, I think when you look at the defense, what what a couple of questions, we talked about this before, but when Josh Heupel was hired, was, will he be able to recruit well enough to win in the SEC? He just didn't have the reputation as a great recruiter for whatever reason. And the other question was, well, we think he can probably build a dynamic offense, but can he build a dynamic defense? The same questions were asked about Steve Spurrier when he was hired at Florida 1990. Was, well, we know the guy's an offensive hot shot, but will he work hard enough at recruiting? What about defense? If you go back and look at the 1990s Florida under Steve Spurrier, he might have recruited more star defensive players than he did offensive ones.
But
There were,
but how much of that was by default because they were in the area?
well, yeah, you can certainly make that, you can make that argument. But he's had that, you can make the same argument about offense.
True.
And Steve Spurrier did not sign a superstar quarterback at Florida. He won a lot with guys that fit his system, but he didn't get someone that came in with Nico's reputation. But as far as Heupel goes, to me, this is really a good sign, is that he knows he needs help on defense. And what does he do? He goes out and gets help. We don't know how they will pan out, but he's at least signing players that other top flight programs want to sign. So he's not just about offense. He knows he's got to get better on defense. And so you can kind of uh, probably check the recruiting box based on what he's done so far. He's got a top number 9 class. So for whatever reason, NIL or what, you got to say, I think he's exceeded expectations as what recruiting might be like under him. And now you can say, well, he knows the value of defense, particularly after giving up 63 points to South Carolina.
Please hit that like button. It helps us get to more people. We appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, a lot of you have. Please do so. We greatly appreciate that. John's appearance brought to you by Vols Automotive Group and Big Orange Phillies. All right, let's talk a little business. I got my last reason why possibly they didn't get a transfer portal quarterback and might not. Salary cap. How much can you spend on one position?
Well, I guess it
I think
depends on. I think the
reportedly they've spent 8 million on that position.
um, well, that may have looked at like a good deal at the time, but if you could persuade an elite quarterback who's already proved himself at the college level, that to me easily trumps a 5-star recruit. And I don't care if his last name is Manning.
Well, I agree, but Tennessee's coach's last name isn't Steinbrenner. There is an end of the spending at some point. I mean, you can only go to the coffers so many times, I would think, before businesses say, listen, we've come up to this amount of money to get this guy. Now you want a guy to tide you over for a year until Nico's ready? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. But what if you tell your boosters and collective that we're a top quarterback away from winning a championship? Do you want a championship or not? You decide. And then by hook or crook or stealing money or a good Ponzi scheme, you try to come up with the money maybe. And I know it's not, you don't have an unlimited treasure chest there from which to draw. But we see it with coaches. When you want to get rid of a coach, it doesn't matter how much it costs you. Team schools end up getting rid of the coach and paying an obscene amount of money to the outgoing coach, then turn around and paying more money to the incoming coach. If you're willing to do that, what's a few million more for a quarterback transfer?
Wow. Again, Files Automotive Group, the center of car shopping in Knoxville on Callahan Drive, Big Orange Phillies in North Knoxville. It's on Maynardville Pike. You'll absolutely love it. Great food there. So, John, this is benefiting Tennessee, I believe, this current craziness. But let's be honest, this National Signing Day, the early National Signing Day 2022 has been insane for the 2023 class with players in the transfer portal, 1,000 players at one point in the transfer portal. How much different do you think, which may actually hurt Tennessee, do you think it'll look in a year from now with the transfer portal and NIL money, or will it be much more different in a year? Is there anything the NCAA can do in the short term to kind of rein this in a little bit?
No, I think the horses are out of the barn there. I don't think there's any, you can't go back now. I think we're going to see more of this as we go along. Eventually there may be a salary cap even for the Miami Hurricanes booster. Eventually there could be that, but as I said, it's not a limitless supply. However, I I don't think, I think it's going to get, well, whether you if you want to, you don't like this, you can say it's going to, I think it will get worse before it gets better. I think we will see more movement in the next year than we saw in the 2022 year. I think we'll see significantly more. And I think guys might get more strategic about this too, as to when they leave, how they go about it, what factors they weigh. It's going to be crazy, but that's college football now.
And I think it's going to be that way a while. I asked Greg Sankey, what's the time frame of reining this in? He goes, well, you got the midterm elections now, and then you've got the big elections in 2024. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought we were talking about weeks or months. He was talking about years.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anywhere close to getting changed.
Well, Dave, here's another way to look at it. When you go back to when Alabama hired Nick Saban, paid a lot back in those days, what was an extraordinary amount of money to hire Nick Saban as its coach, how quickly that paid off.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden you have a championship program. How does that impact not just the team, but the school in terms of endowments, uh, enrollment? All these things factor into it. How it enhances the community. Uh, so I think a lot of it depends on how it goes. If somebody goes out and gets a transfer quarterback and pays him millions of dollars and you win a national championship, people are copycats. Okay, who cares about a top 5 recruiting class? Let's go get the $5 million quarterback.
Well, for those that hate it, and I get it, I understand it. At the end of the day, the reason why Greg Sankey was referring to elections is because this is a legal issue. An 18-year-old man has the right to earn a living. I don't know what they can do. I think it's beyond their legislation, but we'll see. John, we'll talk Orange Bowl next. Certainly appreciate it as always. Brought to you by Vols Automotive Group and Big Orange Phillies. And I love the sweater. Merry Christmas, sir.
Same to you, Dave. And this is my backup Christmas sweater. It's not even number 1 on my depth chart.
Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
No, it has one. I have one with flamingos. Gets lots of compliments.
But not ugly.
Not ugly at all.
With flamingos.
With flamingos.
Doesn't sound like it at all. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.